What's happening, world? Hope you woke up peaceful wherever you at. Hope your night was peaceful. Hope you got some rest. But here we are again. Another day to be great, man. Another day to be good to people. So I'm working with a client, and he was telling me a story about the relationship he just got out of, probably like 30 days ago. Okay, so when I'm working with somebody and trying to help them with their health and wellness, I always ask them about their relationships. Relationships are very important, obviously, because the people who you speak to the most, the people who you interact with the most, are the people who influence you the most, okay? And depending on the style of relationship you guys have and what goes on in that relationship determines whether or not your wellness is affected, stress levels. It really affects how happy you are, okay? So, talking to this young man, and he's telling me about his ex-girlfriend, but he was with her for about 5 years. So, he talked about one specific thing that she did on a daily basis, okay? One specific thing she did on a daily basis. And she used to call him Fat Boy, right? Now, she wasn't the one who came up with the name Fat Boy. It was one of his friends, I guess. But she took it and ran with it, right? And so she would call him Fat Boy, you know, in a loving way. Come here, Fat Boy, and give me a hug. Or, what's up, Fat Boy? How's your day going? Right? So she just started calling him that. And he accepted it, right? He was overweight. And we're not talking grossly overweight. We're talking he could lose 30, 40 pounds. But depending on, you know, what you look like before, where you were before with your health and fitness, you know, 30, 40 pounds can definitely change you, right? You go from being 160 to 200, or that's a lot, you know what I mean? So, whatever. So he was saying how this went on for years and years and years, and she would call him Fat Boy in front of other people, okay? So they would be around others, and they're at a function, an event, they're just around family, around her friends, and she would just call him Fat Boy, right? So much so that even other people then started joking with him about being fat. So they would call him Fat Boy, right? Now again, we're not talking about somebody that's huge. We're just talking about somebody who could stand to lose somewhere between 35 and 50 to get themselves back where they need to be, okay? So he said it got to a point where he started referring to himself as fat. When he looked in the mirror, that's okay, you look pretty good for a fat boy, right? When he failed at something or he did pretty good, oh, that's pretty good for a fat boy, don't you think? So he started referring to himself as fat. So much so that he made it acceptable. And when he broke up with her, he said in a short 30-day period of time, he realized how much he doesn't hear the words Fat Boy, right? Because although other people were saying it, she was the ringleader. And we know that you take one bad apple out of a bunch, man. Yeah, it might have affected the bunch, but the bunch changes, right? When that bad apple's taken out. So when you talk to yourself, when you refer to yourself as anything, I don't care what it is, bro, your words have power. When you say stuff, not only do you speak it, but you hear it. Not only do you speak it, but you hear it. So you come outside and say, man, it's hot. It's so hot today. You're projecting it, and you also hear it. So that's twice, okay? That's two modes of communication you go through every time you say something to yourself, about yourself out loud. So if he said if he combined the times that she might have called him Fat Boy in a week and the times that he referred to himself as a fat boy, it might have been over 50 different times. Our belief in ourselves is probably our strongest characteristic, bro, whether we believe in ourselves or not. Because if you don't believe in yourself, it takes over. It doesn't matter what you do in life. If you do not believe in yourself, you won't do well. If you have supreme belief in yourself, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to be successful. That's how it goes. Because he referred to himself as fat boy, and because his girlfriend referred to him as a fat boy, he believed he was a fat boy. So he didn't take pride in his health. He did not take pride in his wellness. He didn't think it made sense to change his nutrition. He didn't think it made sense to start moving, getting in 10,000 steps a day, or start going to the park and doing some jumping jacks. He didn't think it made a difference because he looked at himself as a fat boy, right? Well, first off, everyone has fat on their body, right? Even the guys with very, very, very low body fat, they have some body fat somewhere on their body. So this whole notion, first of all, that none of us are supposed to have any fat is a false narrative. But aside from that, you can't expect to think highly of yourself if you talk low of yourself. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. If you look at yourself in the mirror and all you do is point out your negatives, you will believe that you're made up of your negatives. We all have negatives. And we all have things, this is what's crazy. We all have things that we would call a negative that other people would look at as a positive. Huh? So, you might have a couple gray hairs on your head, and you look at that and say, man, I hate these grays. The person sitting next to you might say, the gray hairs make you more attractive. Right, that's how I go. So what I told this young man when I'm talking to him, I said, man, first of all, make an assessment on how you feel right now that you're not with her anymore. Because I would venture to say, fat boy wasn't the only negative thing that she was drilling into your head, right? When you love somebody, man, you adore somebody, their words have more power than the words of other people. So as she's drilling in his head that he was a fat boy, that had a lot to do with why he started to believe that. So, how do we move forward from that? Because it's great to tell a story and, let you guys in on somebody's life, but how do we move forward? I said, bro, you have to do the exact opposite as you were doing for the last 5 years. The exact opposite, okay? Because if calling yourself fat boy and hearing the words fat boy had so much impact on you, what would happen if you told yourself you're healthy? What would happen if you told yourself you look amazing? What would happen if you told yourself you're worthy, that you look amazing in your clothes, that everybody stares at you when you come in the room, that you're valuable, huh? What would happen then? And I even went as far to say when somebody refers to you as fat boy moving forward, even if it happens, you got to correct them. Oh, nah, that's the former me. I'm not that anymore. You're going to have to find another name for me, homie. I'm not that no more. I was that. That's cool. But I'm not that anymore. I changed that up. So you might need to come with another name for yourself. It's okay to change your nickname sometimes. A lot of the stars and artists that we follow change up their names from time to time. It's okay to do that. Your words have power. When you look in the mirror, whatever you tell yourself is what you're going to start to believe. Whatever you speak into your life is what you're going to focus on. And I said, what'll happen is when you change your name to healthy boy instead of fat boy, when you change your name to Fit Boy instead of Fat Boy, you'll start to move that way. And now you'll start believing that you're worth changing your nutrition. You're worth getting better sleep. You're worth getting sunlight. You're worth drinking your water. You're worth de-stressing. You'll start to believe that you're worth all those things. So to my people who are with somebody who continuously puts them down, and although you've accepted the tag they gave you, you don't like it. You gotta make some changes in that relationship. I ain't the one to be trying to tell everybody to get divorced and break up, but the people that you look at, that you admire, that you follow on social media, that look happy and healthy, that they appear happy and healthy, which means they probably are. I guarantee you they don't lay beside somebody who puts them down every day. Because it would be pretty hard to maintain that level of healthy and happy if that was the case. All right? This is your guy, mark my words.